Storytime. Back in 2021, I attended my very first comic convention. And for this convention, I crafted my Scrap Baby cosplay. This was the best cosplay I had ever made up to that point, and I wore it to multiple conventions and events over the next several years. Fast forward to today, however, and she's looking a bit old and dated. So I feel it's time to put some fresh life into her, with a complete remake from the ground up. So this is the first video in a 3-part series in where I will be showing you guys the build process for my new Scrap Baby 2.0 cosplay. Going into this, I decided to base Scrap Baby 2.0 off both her official versions as seen in Pizzeria Simulator and Help Wanted 2. In the end, I decided to shape her head to the proportions of the Help Wanted 2 model while giving her the specific facial details from her original Pizzeria Simulator model, such as the eyes. So I began by patterning out her base head onto some EVA foam and cut it out. After using contact cement to glue the seams together, her head was already beginning to take shape. The only problem was that the shape was way too big. I made the classic mistake of incorrect scaling, so I cut apart the base head and made a new smaller one that was the correct size. Next, I sketched out where her facial features would be in pencil before I used a box cutter knife to cut out her eye and mouth holes. I also cut out the spots where the chunks of her faceplates are missing, then glued some black EVA foam pieces in behind to help maintain structural integrity. As per usual, I used one of my good old baseball helmets as the base of the head structure. I screwed a wooden board frame to the outside of the helmet to serve as a sturdy surface that the outer head would connect to. Then using some wooden drawer slides, I made a way for the outer head to be slid on and off the internal structure. I did this so I can get inside the head easily and do maintenance and repairs when needed. Next, I painted her faceplates their base colors and began adding on several layers of her facial features and further layers of detailing. I used a plastic Christmas ornament to create her cheek blushes by cutting it in half and gluing each half onto her face. Then I quickly made her nose out of several layers of EVA foam that I dremeled and sanded into the right shape. For her teeth, I used plastic fingernail extensions that I glued into a bow of EVA foam. They were honestly perfect and looked so good. Next, I created her lower jaw using my method of heat-bending plastic and button snaps to attach it to the baseball helmet. After adding a small spring, I had myself a mechanical jaw mechanism that would be able to open and close Scrap Baby's mouth seamlessly. From there, I created and attached her lower set of teeth, followed by her outer chin piece. I used some electrical wire tubing to add some final details to her face before I took to tackling the mechanical eyes. I decided to use a Lego gear system to turn her eyes from side to side, and I powered it using an Arduino board with a servo motor mounted on top of her head. I bought some color-changing LED puck lights for her eyes and mounted them to the Lego gears. After pinning them up, I had her eyes, though not very good ones. Next, I used some thin EVA foam to create her eyelids. I tried to set them loose in her head to see what they looked like, but ended up making Scrap Baby look super high. Using some more Lego pieces, I mounted her eyelids to the inside of her outer head. Now at this point I decided to remake her eyes properly because the little pin eyes just weren't cutting it. So I made a new pair of eyes that were much larger and ended up looking so much better than the first. I also attached the eyelid mechanisms to the jaw, allowing me to both open and close her mouth and move her eyelids simultaneously. With her eye mechanics all done, it was time to cut out and attach the PVC pipes that would be her pigtail mounts. Once those were in place on her outer head, I took 2 more PVC pipes and created the base structures of each of her pigtails around them. Now it was time for the worst part of this whole process, her hair. I sat down and proceeded to put my right arm through a perpetual series of cramps and pain as I cut and dremeled an endless sea of EVA foam dowels into each of her individual hairs. And in the end, I successfully gave Scrap a bowl cut because I lined up her hairs way too straight and linear. So I took some time to mess them up a bit and moved on to making her head accessories. I used EVA foam and more of that plastic wire tubing to create her metal hair bow, and then I used a couple of ping pong balls and wooden poles to create the pins in her hair. I really enjoyed this process a lot. It was just so nice to take a break from having to do all that hair. And now for the final gauntlet of hair application. I went through one more day of nasty dremeling and painting as I finished off her pigtails. And with her pigtails done, I pretty much had the entire head completed except for one last thing I wanted to do. I decided to add some last minute green painted details to her eyes to help really make them pop. And with that, her head was done. Alright, before I show you guys the reveal of her completed head, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching today's video. And if you liked what you saw today, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to stay tuned for part 2 of Scrap Baby 2.0's Build Log series. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.